Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on the agenda for Reality Roundup, we have VPR slash The Valley, Southern Charm, Southern Hospitality, and Teen Mom. Let's get into it. Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday, and I hope everyone had a good week. Those of you watching on YouTube see that I have a little bit of a different setup right now. I am in my living room with two dogs. I've got Judy in my lap, and I've got Barry to my right, possibly your left. I don't really know. If you're watching on YouTube, over on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel, you can see us all. I'm just trying this out because Barry has only been here for like 3 days. Sorry, 2 days? Sorry for the coughing, guys. I'm just getting over my sickness from last week. So yeah, today's episode won't be perfect, and I think it'll be a little bit shorter. I say that now, but who knows as we go through it. I just adopted him, so we're in the process of training, and he hasn't peed in like 26 hours or something. Like, I don't know. His foster said he only pees 2 or 3 times a day and he might be holding his pee. But like, this is weird. And like, the last 2 times he peed, like, he's only been peeing like once a day. And like, the one time he peed yesterday was because I scared him. So it was like a fear pee. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Other than that, he's an angel. If you're looking at him, he's the black one. I named him Barry Barkman after Barry Berkman, Bill Hader from the show. What's the name of the show? Barry. I'm such an idiot. I'm losing it right now, guys. I'm tired. I'm a new mom. Sleep withdrawal, all that stuff. But yes, the show Barry from HBO was on from like 2018. It had like 4 seasons. He was a ex-hitman turned actor, and his name was Barry Berkman, and this is Barry Barkman. So Judy is not loving him. She is, it's funny because I got him for her, and she's not into him. But if there's any dog people, listeners who are listening, please let me know. I don't know. I mean, when they first met, they seem to have interacted, but like any other dog I've introduced her to, she hasn't like, bonded with in any sort of crazy way. That being said, I really thought this was going to be a good thing for her because she did have a sister when I got her, and she's literally been pacing around for the year that I've had her, even though I'm home all the time. So I thought she would really benefit from a sibling, especially because she had one before. So I don't know, maybe she's just been too spoiled for too long with a year with just her mommy. But we're doing well so far. Barry is having a great time. He's sleeping in bed with me, sleeping all night like an angel. And yeah, it's been going good. The only thing is, oh, and the other reason why I'm saying this might be a shorter episode today is because I have a little bit of anxiety. Most of it has to do with Barry, not because he isn't an angel, he is. It's because of the way I did this, and by that I mean my building doesn't actually allow two dogs, and I just like did it anyways. And I did send property management an email as to why I would need this second dog, and it was kind of insane to the point where I don't even like want to say it out loud. So like but I didn't hear back, and I don't know. So I hope it's gonna be fine, but now I feel like I'm on the run constantly because I don't know if people are watching me, on the cameras are coming for me, and I obviously don't want to end up having to give him up. He is such a beautiful baby angel. Right, Barry? Ugh. Guys, I'm sorry, I have to cough one more time. I'll try to edit those out, but I want to do one episode in my entire life where I don't have to do any editing. That would make me so happy. Honestly, what stresses me out the most about podcasting is the time it takes me to edit because I want to make them perfect for you guys, or the most perfect that they can be, while so many other people's podcasts are literally people talking back and forth. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And it's not edited out. Actually, I was listening to this episode of Reality Steve where he had Lauren from Lauren and Dave, like Lauren from Love is Blind. And there's this one part where they couldn't hear each other and they're like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And he's like, okay, just, I'm just going to edit that part out. Just let me note the time. And he looks at the time and he goes, okay, 42. Okay, I'm going to edit that out. And then he doesn't because like I'm watching it. So I thought that was so funny. Anyways, let's get into the episode, guys. This is so interesting to do this a different way because now I have my phone in front of me as opposed to the different way that I normally do it. Okay, so we had Sandoval on Us Weekly this past week, and we had Ariana on People. Now, I didn't read either article, but both of them had a major headline, and I want to talk about the major headlines from both because they are both very sort of pivotal to what we talk about when we talk about Vanderpump Rules. So with Sandoval, the main headline was, "Are we ready to forgive him?" And like, has the time come? And it's interesting. He really has seemed to have redeemed himself through the traitors, but in a weird way. He's sort of one of those characters now where we like to make fun of him, so as long as he's okay with that, I guess it's fine. Sorry, one more cough. I apologize, guys. Still just getting over this cough and cold. Okay, no editing, just drink some water. Please bear with me, guys. Um, So has he redeemed himself? I mean, not in the sense where I think he's a good guy. And here's the thing. I don't know about you, but I would never set him up with anybody, obviously. But he just gives me the forever ick. Like, I've always tried to picture if I were to meet him, like at BravoCon or at some event. I don't think I'd ask him for a picture. I don't think I want it. He just gives me the ick. I never thought he was attractive anyways, but now I find him just like slimy and even more unattractive. And I know we're over sort of using the word the ick, and like I'm 41 and I should probably not use it, but that's the vibe. Now, does he make good reality TV? Sure, but only in this context. Like, I'm kind of loving him as like a baffling buffoon on competition shows. That's fun. Do I want to watch a show about his life? No, not at all. Like, I don't want to see any sort of Vanderpump spin-off where it's like a Schwartz and Sandy's sort of spin-off of their lives. Absolutely not. I don't care. But as a buffoon, would I watch it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that I like him at all. It actually means I hate him. And there's some people that we hate to love on reality TV. I feel like we've talked about this a lot, and I hate that I'm even using this as an example because this isn't a good example, but here I go. This is just a whole different vibe on the couch, right? We're living on the couch. We're living free on the couch. We're saying whatever we want on the couch. Vibing on the couch. Vibing on the couch. What was the thought that I have? Oh, Alexis Bellino. Because do we hate her? Sure. But did it sort of make good TV? Yes. Not for as long as it did, but for a while. Was it a storyline? Absolutely. I'm trying to think of somebody else we hated. I mean, we hated Raquel for a while, but was season 10 amazing because of what happened in Scandal? Yes. So sometimes someone can make excellent reality TV, but it doesn't mean we like them as a person. So has he redeemed himself as a person? No. I would say no. But can he continue on in reality TV? Sure. Have we forgiven him for cheating on Ariana? I don't care. I don't care enough. But I will say this. I spent way too much of my life on Scandal. That being said, I mean, it changed my life in so many ways. I wouldn't have started this podcast. I wouldn't have started listening to Vanderpump Rules related podcasts. I wouldn't have met so many people that I've met. I wouldn't have sort of changed my whole career path for it. But that being said, as into it as we all got, it was pretty embarrassing to have invested so much of our time and our lives into it. Um, so I'll say that I forgive him in that sense, and I forgive us. And then Ariana was on People, and basically her main headline from that was that she was probably not going to come back to Vanderpump Rules anyways. Now, some people in the comments are like, "Yeah, right. You would have never passed up 600 to $700,000, whatever it is that they make, probably more." I don't know. Katie wasn't going back, and I truly believe that neither of them were going back. I had Brad Kearns, Ariana's best friend, on my podcast back in December, and he concurred. And I think not in a bad way, but I think he has a lot of control in her life, in a good way. I think he does a lot for her, especially in chaotic times or when she has a lot going on. He sort of takes the reins, and the way he spoke in the podcast to me was very much in an authoritative way of like, we discussed it, and you weren't going back anyways. Like, I really don't think that was going to happen, and it wouldn't have made sense, which is what she says in this article, or the little bits that I've read about it. It wouldn't have made sense. To what storyline would it make sense for Katie and Ariana to be there, except in a more separate capacity, like something about her, which is something I'd suggested, not to anyone in particular, but a long time ago, where a teen mom vibe may have been more conducive to this environment where we watch people separately or in pairs, irrespective of like the group in general. But, you know, we're going through with something else. That being said, we have the new Vanderpump Rules filming. So I'm going to read you guys the article from TMZ about that. So it says, these are the best days of our lives because TMZ has learned that the brand new cast for season 12 of Vanderpump Rules will begin filming in a few weeks. Oh, sorry, in a few weeks. Production sources tell us the rebooted Bravo series will go into production in early April. We're told the cast is made up of 14 members, some will be full time, and others will be friends of the cast. We're told the rebooted version of the long running series will keep its original formula, which will take viewers inside the hookups, feuds, and drama surrounding Lisa Vanderpump's West Hollywood restaurant SUR. We're told the servers' homes and lives outside the restaurant will be the meat of the show. I mean, are we gonna watch, guys? I don't know. I don't really care to. It's so hard to get invested in new people. It really is. Like even this new Temptation Islands show on Netflix, I thought I'd be really into it. I'm like, okay, I'm home with the dogs. I'm gonna focus on this. Oh, and by the way, sorry guys for not doing mini recaps on the weekend. This is why I was busy with the dogs, and I apologize for not sticking to the schedule. But I couldn't get into it because I couldn't invest in the characters. And I feel like these people are going to be very thirsty for camera time. I feel like, and just because it's the same formula, that's all that's going to be the same about it. Yeah, it's going to be the same formula, the same restaurant. I'm not particularly invested in the restaurant. I've never been to Sir. And it's going to be Lisa Vanderpump, and I'm not particularly invested in Lisa Vanderpump. And Peter, he'll be there, sure. But like, these were the best days of our lives because of those particular people. So I don't know. I feel like it's just gonna be another Vanderpump Villa, and I wonder when that's coming back. By the way, because wasn't Stassi supposed to be on that? Anyways, Lala was on When Reality Hits. So Brittany rebranded her podcast. She has amazing new podcast art. You should check it out. It looks really cute. And then Jax is doing In the Mind of a Man. Oh, and by the way, he's doing a podcast tour. It's like a multi-city tour. I reposted the tour. So many people DM'd me and were like, "What is this?" I have to be honest, I don't know. I think all I know from his podcast, which I haven't really listened to, like now it's an official separate podcast. Before he was doing episodes here and there. I think he's liking talking about mental health and he likes talking about like why men do what they do, I guess. He enjoys answering questions. I don't know why listeners would even ask him anyways, but when people will ask him like, why do men ghost or why do whatever? Actually, that being said, isn't that how Nick Vile sort of got started? People started asking him like ask me anythings on his Instagram and people started asking him relationship questions, which is weird from like the worst dater ever. And then he ended up writing a book, right? Like Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday, and now he has a popular podcast where he gives dating advice. I don't know. I still would never take dating advice from Jax, but or mental health advice from Jax, but I bet you guys $1 million this will sell out. Like these things just do. Kyle Cook is also doing like a DJ gig in Toronto. I'm sure it'll sell it like crazy. Whatever these people do will sell out. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm sure if Jax just sat there and stared at a wall, it'll sell out. So it's not in my city, so I don't know what it is, but I'm sure we'll hear from fans. And I hope something fun comes out of it, at least some good tea or something. But if you want to get some mental health advice from Jax, definitely check out his tour, his multi-city tour. But aside from that, Lala and Brittany were chatting, and one thing we heard from Lala about um the difference now being a mother to Sosa as opposed to being a mother to Ocean is how it's allowed her to experience motherhood in a different sort of way. Because with Ocean, she's always having to give up time. So she always has to think about things in terms of, oh, if I go out tonight, is this going to be the last few hours I would have with Ocean because I'm not going to get her for the next few days. Well, with Sosa, there's a peace in just having your child full time and never having to give your child away. That being said, it's very sad to say that to Brittany, who is probably going to end up in that situation at certain times of her life where she's going to be giving her child up to Jax. But this is the realities of divorce and splitting custody, right? So, sorry, I'm going to cough again, guys. So, to the naysayers, I don't know if there are any who are against what Lala did by having a kid by herself. I mean, think about it. It's so true what she's saying. You can never 100% guarantee that your child is going to be with you 100% of the time, even if you're married, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I really do feel for moms, and I'm not a mom, but I really feel for people who have to give up time with their children. That must be insanely awful because people who are married don't have to give up time with their children. They're with their children 100% of the time. So I can't even imagine what that feels like. And to find a way to guarantee it the other way, I mean, I understand that. And she talks about how she ended up going down to 90 pounds when she was really at her worst moments with Randall or after Randall. And she was sort of in that fight or flight mode and she was on the run with Ocean. And she says she has basically a trauma bond with Ocean, which I don't think is a good thing. It's so crazy. We have such a hard time. Okay, I don't like Lala for like all the reasons we don't like Lala from last year. But that being said, it's also hard to feel for her in the Randall situation because it just sort of seems like you should have known. But it I just have at the end of the day, I have to say it really doesn't seem like she did know. And but that being said, that he's awful is what I mean. And we've seen her time and time again just really break down over what happened with him. This is another example of her losing a whole bunch of weight. She really, really became a different person because of what happened with Randall. And it changed her perspective on motherhood. It changed her perspective on men. It changed her perspective on work. It changed her perspective on money. Oh, another funny thing she said in this podcast was how so originally Give Them Lala, her podcast was Give Them Lala with Randall, and very shortly into the podcast they broke up and they had to split well, basically you're in a contract is the issue, so that's why they were talking about it, because now Brittany is finally out of her contract with Jax, which is why she can take over when reality hits and he's doing his own. But Lala was talking about, oh, she still had to do it with Randall for a certain period of time and then had to pay him out, and she goes, I've never told this story before. And it's like, I've heard this story several times. She's so funny. It's like, here's the tea and I've told you this tea. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, and I feel for her in the sense of not a ton because she couldn't talk a lot about post Randall stuff on TV, but I do applaud her for showing some of it, especially her emotions. You could see just how raw her emotions were after all of that happened and how distraught she really was about who Randall turned out to be, what her life turned out to be, and look how much it's really changed her and kind of like messed with her, right? So when really it just is cheating and I don't know, she just had this really intense perspective in her mind and vision of what her life was going to be. And I guess just to have that all crashing down just really fucks with a person and really changes a person. So I'm glad that she has now recovered from that. Her custody is settled, but it was just interesting to hear more of her perspective in terms of how she deems her relationship with Ocean and how she deems her relationship with Sosa because of that trauma that she went through. Okay, what else do we have in Vanderpump the Valley news? We have oh, everyone basically unfollowed James Kennedy recently. So Allie, Sheena, Ariana, and Katie. Now, I'm not sure if they unfollowed him recently, like after the Tate brothers stuff. It's always hard to tell, right? Unless you're like following these people constantly to be able to tell like when they're unfollowing. But my good friend Bravo Buds noted that who do we have here? So she put Ali, Sheena, and Music Kills Katie in the last day. And I believe Ariana did as well. And then Zach Wickham posted to his stories, or sorry, this is a tweet. He wrote, I find it shitty that the final straw for you all was to unfollow him was when he posted a picture with problematic, horrible people, not when he was a problematic, horrible person to your friend. And the answer is yes to everyone you think this is about. So, I mean, he makes an excellent point. I mean, Zach can be like shady AF, but he is. Sorry, Judy, you were like stepping on my headphones. Okay. Um, Zach can be a little bit shady AF, but he is an excellent friend to Kristin. And if you go back and listen to my Be True Hollywood story episode about Kristen Doty, you'll learn a lot more about how much people have really fucked and dicked Kristen around over the years, including her friends, including, the cast and Vanderpump Rules and Bravo and all of that. But this is so true. Like, what really upsets me, I mean, so many things about the James Kennedy stuff upsets me, but one of the major things is back in November 2023, when there was an investigation started against him by NBC Bravo, and then he was welcomed to BravoCon and all of that stuff. Um, So that investigation's like going on, but the cast is continuing to film with him, and they all know about this investigation. Yet now, when the Tate brothers thing happens, when something is just like a stupid like social media thing, now you unfollow him, but not when he's being investigated for physically harming women. Not then. Not filming with him then. You couldn't have done that then. That's the shit that bothers me. So, yeah, unfollow him now, guys. Like I don't think they're ever going to speak on this, which is just so annoying. And as time passes more and more, who knows? We did hear that rumor last week that James Kennedy was going to be on Bravo's Hot Mic podcast. Haven't heard anything more about it. I hope I'm not jinxing it, but nothing came out last week about it. So I hope that that's that. I think that's all we have in Vanderpump news. Okay, let's move on to Southern Charm. So I didn't end up doing a recap on the weekend, obviously, but I'm just going to recap a couple of scenes because they're relevant to the news that we have to talk about. So there was that really awkward Craig and Austin and Paige scene where they're in the backyard of Craig's house, and Austin is like saying hi to Paige because he hasn't seen her in a while because Austin and Craig weren't good. And there's just like this weird conversation about how many kids Craig wants and how many kids Paige wants. That being said, before we get into it, why is this a conversation in every single episode of this show in Summer House or conversation between Paige and Craig or anything? No, it is Southern Charm. Can we talk about something else? Is there nothing else that people gather to talk about in a backyard besides how many kids you want? Anyways, it's just I wonder if so much of the pressure that Paige felt was production and not even realizing it, just being forced to talk about it week after week after week in every show that you're fucking on. But anyways, so they're in the backyard, they're having this conversation, and Craig is like, "Oh, Paige wants 3 kids," and Paige is like, "I want 2 kids. You don't listen to me." And there was this weird awkwardness about it that even Austin noticed and said, like, you know. There's a difference in them. Like, I don't think it's as sunny as he paints it to be. Did she just snap at him? And I don't know their relationship, obviously. I've never met either of them, but I don't even know if this is the vibe. First of all, what I noticed was Paige just acting very performative. That's the word I would use. She was just acting up a lot in that scene. It's just very hyper almost seeming. And I don't know if it was on purpose, but she didn't seem relaxed. She seemed very like uppity, wired, and yeah, not relaxed. And then when they had this weird interaction where they sort of disagreed on something kind of major, her face just sort of went into what Jewish people would call a punim, which in Yiddish is just like a pouty face. And that was strange as well. Just she just seemed very immature in this scene, and I don't mean any disrespect to Paige whatsoever. It was just the scene. She just seemed off, uppity, weird. Maybe she was tired. I don't really know. In terms of their dynamic, it's always hard to tell because she's always making fun of him, like as a joke, but so it's always hard to tell what their real dynamic is, but he always seems a little pained. And so I saw that, but that's because that's what I always see. He always seems pained. But there's just something that you're picking up on week after week as we watch these shows. And we didn't recap Summer House last week, but there was a scene with Paige and Craig going to a restaurant for dinner. And he's like, the busier you get, it's just going to be more difficult for us to have like a slower kind of life. And she's like, I never want a slow kind of life. If I said I wanted to get married and have babies right now, you'd say, let's do it. And what's interesting is how I keep going back to that Watch What Happens Live moment that he had recently where he said, we didn't want different things, she just wanted different people. But Craig, she so clearly wanted different things. And I don't even blame Craig for this. Why are the two of you together? Oh, and even Austin said that in the Southern Charm scene. He said, like, these people are two just so diametrically opposed in life. They want two wildly separate things. And I know that Paige has said on Summer House that a lot of that has to do with her just changing in the past few years and being busier and wanting different things. But I don't remember them ever being aligned. They just seem so unaligned to the point where watching it now, I wish we had all of this back knowledge now, because if tomorrow was the news breaking that they had broken up, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't even flinch, right? Wouldn't you guys all feel the same way? Okay. Oh, and then the other thing that happened in the episode that we do have to talk about is this scene. Oh my God, this weird thing that's happening with JT. I don't know whether I hate him or love him. No, I hate him, obviously. But he's also being kind of dicked around, and I don't know if it's Bravo or production or the cast. I think it's the cast. It's just wildly confusing. So basically, what happens in this scene is, so in last week's episode of Southern Charm, there's this scene where, okay, so Leva finds out. No, wait, who is it that finds out? Anyways, it comes about that Ryan, you know, the quiet guy Ryan, who has not said anything this season to date, basically he says that he goes to the same barber as JT, and he found out from his barber that JT said that some black girl on the show is trying to get him to break up with his girlfriend. And this gets back to Venita and it gets back to Leva. And everyone's distraught. They're just like, JT would never say this. And it's just like, what the hell? What is this game of telephone? So Leva goes to meet with JT. It is extremely clear that he is not aware of what's about to be said. She's like, oh, your barber said something to Ryan. You have the same Ryan as or barber as Ryan, and he's like, "Oh, do you like my haircut?" And you could tell, like, it. He didn't even flinch. It didn't even occur to him. Then Leva tells him what was said, and JT's like, "That makes me sound racist. That's crazy. Like, what the hell?" He clarifies with his barber. He calls the barber like on camera, and basically the barber says that he said, how's the show going? What's going on with the show? And he said, oh, there's an interest with this cute black girl Venita on the show. Um, and that's it. And I guess I got kind of twisted around. So JT, I mean, it's sort of, again, if we had all this context, it would make a lot more sense as to why JT quit. That being said, we don't really care. I just noticed that I say that being said a lot. I apologize. Please do not leave me comments saying that I say that being said a lot because I just noticed it. I am aware of it. I take heed and I'm on it. I'm on top of it, okay? So, you know, you don't need to let me know. I know. I'm gonna work on it. So that was fucked up. Um if I were JT, I would be really upset as well. It does seem like there's been several occurrences now of things happening where he's being accused of saying things he didn't say or he's claiming he didn't say to the point where he's done with the show and I don't blame him. Don't love JT on the other hand. I was saying that instead of that being said. And another reason I don't like him is because of this whole mess with Vanita because yeah, Vanita shouldn't be hitting on someone with a boyfriend, but why are you flirting with this girl so hardcore? Like, remember in the episode where they were still in the Bahamas and Vanita was getting like paragraphs and paragraphs from JT? Vanita wouldn't have straddled him, I assume. Vanita wouldn't have straddled him and like come on to him and all of this stuff if he wasn't giving her signals. I am also, though, that is instead of that being said, it is hard not to say it. What about the ordering of the scenes though? Because in this episode of Southern Charm, Vanita is asking JT if he wants to go to this event with her as her plus one. Is this after the Bahamas when she straddled him, and is this after the conversation where he says, I can't because I have a girlfriend? Like, I don't really understand. Or is she genuinely still like asking this man out after he's been like, no, no, no? So I don't know if we need to put a little accountability on Vanita here. I hate to ever do that, you know, such a girl's girl. Um, so in the after show for Southern Charm, which is the news that we are getting to, Vanita and Leva are sitting down, and Vanita's talking about how she spent $5,000 on an outfit for JT for the first episode of the season where they're at like a horse. What are those things called? I don't know, some horse event. The Dumas? For you at Dumas. No, wait, Dumas is the name of the clothing store. And then Vanita goes, or sorry, Leva goes, did he pay you back? Did you get a Venmo? And Vanita goes, that's my best friend, implying no. And then Us Weekly published an article with that quote saying that she spent $5,000 on her quote unquote best friend. And then JT posted a story of the Us Weekly article, and he wrote on top of it, the jacket I wore to the episode one horse race. Yeah, sorry, it was a horse race. 5K, filmed on camera. At the time it was funny and we laughed it off, and I PayPal'd in full. Now it's another little lie I get to deal with. Almost over. And he also commented, we are slash were best friends. I forgot my credit card in her car by accident, was hobbling with a cane for a few days after a major ATV crash, and PayPal'd her back in full after she insisted I slash we not hobble back to the car to get the card and hobble back. This is fun. Jesus. And then the next story, he shows the PayPal that he paid her and blocked out like her last name. It says Venita, April 1st. $4,054.48. And then he wrote, and it wasn't $5,000, 4,054.48 was the number. And then he tagged at Us Weekly. Jesus Christ. Okay. Oh, sorry guys, I got a cough. And then Sally commented on the after show comments as well and wrote, I just find it funny that this is what he's trying to clear up, but he let V get drug through the mud. Doug. He let Venita get dug through the mud for other things this whole time, and this was before they were back on speaking terms. It's not like she could go to him for advice during the after show. You quit and y'all weren't speaking. And then somebody said, what did JT do to you? It's giving bandwagon. And then Sally said, he invited me into his home and then tried to blackmail me. Pipe down. And then he commented on top of that and wrote, this is a lie. She's never been in my house and I've never blackmailed anyone. She's blocked and my lawyers and I are deciding if we want to serve for defamation. Probably not because candidly, it's not worth my time or money. Okay, well, this one is bullshit. Obviously, Sally is talking about that event that they went to after Molly's um what was it, that tuba concert. It was his establishment. I don't know what it was. It was like his establishment. So that's what she means. He invited me into his home and tried to blackmail me. That was the part that was cut out because I told you guys this maybe a couple of months ago that the one other time that Ryan guy who's in the poster but never says anything was involved is that apparently there's this girl that JT was dating. I don't know if it's this same girl who was stalking the cast, and two of the cast members had to get a restraining order against this person because she was blackmailing them. So that is what Sally is talking about, if I'm not mistaken. This is all getting insanely messy though, and it's hard to like kind of take a side because here I'm like, okay, JT paid Venita, so what the fuck? But then I'm like, but JT should not be flirting this much with Venita. He's leading her on, what the fuck? But then he's wrong about this Sally thing, so like, what the fuck, right? So I'm just in a very weird place. At least we do know that JT is coming to the reunion, so at least hopefully we'll get some answers there. Well, probably not because all of this social media war is happening after the fact. So it's kind of hard to tell, but like I mean, I think the easiest is just to hate JT, love Vanita. Actually, I think they should give Vanita more screen time next year. And I think at the end of the day, it's probably for the best that she didn't end up with JT because he seems for the most part to still be a troublemaker in some sense. I don't feel like all of this is insane. I do feel for him in the sense that if people are saying things that are out of context and not the things that you said, that is totally cool or totally not cool. Oh, and by the way, I am currently doing a rewatch of Southern Charm and I'm all the way in like season like 6 and 7. There are so many people who've called Miss Patricia a bitch in the past. You would not believe. I swear I've counted like 3 on camera that we've caught. I'm just saying. One other thing on Southern Charm is okay, do you guys remember Kristin Cavallari's history with Craig Conover? If not, I will give you a little history lesson. And you can also go back and listen to my episode of Craig and Paige, a relationship timeline with Ryan Bailey, where we go into it all. But back in like 2020, the height of COVID, Kristin Cavallari was, freshly single, hanging out in Nashville, and I'm not sure if this was for a show or for some other random reason, but she invited Craig and Austin out to Nashville for something. They were like partying, hanging out with her and her friend, Justin Anderson. There's all these videos of her like basically on Austin and Craig's like shoulders, twerking around, dancing, doing all this stuff. And then Austin and Craig were on Watch What Happens Live and were asked about it. And Austin was super cagey, and it sort of seemed like he had hooked up with her or something had happened with him. And then Kristin was on Watch What Happens Live. Again, this is years ago. And she said that she may have drunkenly kissed Craig, but that's it. But then on Summer House, we learned more because when Paige confronted Craig about it, he said, do I have someone that I hook up with in Nashville when I'm there? Yes. And I do believe him, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I am mistaken, and so I will say allegedly, that he has said either in camera, or sorry, either on camera or in writing that she lied saying that they didn't hook up. Well, anyways, this past weekend, she's been doing a podcast tour. She's been doing a tour for her podcast, Let's Be Honest. And she had Austin and Craig there. And I bet you $1,000,000 she hooked up with Craig. And like, why not, right? But like, what a fucking blast from the past. Or
I just wonder if that could actually like work long term. I mean, I can't see him moving to Nashville, but like she's got 3 kids. She's got sort of the life he wants, right? Because it's sort of a mix of two. She's sort of like Paige in the sense that she's like a hard worker, she's an entrepreneur, she is determined, and she is still working to make her like she's not sort of at the end of her career. She's at the beginning. And but she's also making a family life work at the same time, and she already has the 3 kids. So I wonder. But if not, just like a good fuck friend, I think I could. I would actually love to see this become like an on and off again thing. Actually, correct me if I am mistaken because I have not been like super online lately, but I do believe that Kristin Cavallari said that she is doing another reality show, and I think it is just this podcast tour. Wait a minute. So if it is this podcast tour, I wonder if there will be any episodes that include Austin and Craig. But that being said, oh, sorry guys, I said it again. I would totally watch a reality show centered around that hookup. If there's like a long term on again, off again hookup between Kristen Cavallari and Craig Conover show type of show, I would watch that. You? They're hot. Okay, what are we getting into next? I think we are into Southern Hospitality. So we're almost done. So for Southern Hospitality, Will and Emmy were on the Vile Files this past week. So as you recall, we just finished season 3 of Southern Hospitality, and it was a really good season. We had the reunion, and Will did not show up to the reunion. But then he shows up to the Vile Files. They did it, I think they recorded it on March the 10th. And these are the highlights that I'll talk about from it. Or, sorry, we'll sort of, I guess, go through some of the things that were said. And I want to sort of talk about the things that I agree with and then the things that I think are kind of still bullshit. Because you can't listen to an entire podcast of them being deep dive basically and just think, like, oh, well, this whole thing is crap. But then you also can't they also can't refute everything that was said either that isn't realistic. So I kind of want to talk about not the pros and cons, but like kind of the good and the bad. Um, so Emmy being reactive was something interesting that they talked about. Apparently, that's just very much her personality. She's very reactive. So when she gets kind of like uppity and reactive, Will doesn't always react to it because he knows that she's just like that. So he's using that as an example for something like when she was being accused of pocketing the dress money, that she's all freaking out and uppity and reactive, and he's just like, oh, what's wrong? You didn't do that? His explanation is because she's always reactive, he doesn't react that much to that. Okay, I feel ya, maybe. The only part that I thought was weird is just that, and I think it was TJ, if I'm not mistaken, was like, oh, her boyfriend didn't even like react if she was upset. But if TJ was a close friend of hers, which he was at the time and has known her for many, many years, he would know that she's just especially reactive. Or he's lying. That's the other thing about TJ, as we'll learn throughout this episode, as we learn more about him. We learn that he is even shadier than we had originally thought. Or I hope you guys were all on my bandwagon with that. That guy just has a lot of dark energy. Will also said that he thinks a lot of their cast has become really camera drunk. He thinks that it's become very apparent in the third season to some people what it means to have a storyline and what it means to be able to get screen time, and that they're in the offensive. Or, sorry, if you're not in the offensive, you're on the defensive. Okay. He's obviously talking about TJ and Brad there. I think that besides the Will and Emmy stuff, that TJ had several storylines. Like he had Sir Wiener's, and I'm not saying he didn't do this for a storyline. I'm not saying I don't believe Will and Emmy. I'm just saying that's stupid of TJ to think that like he had to really like show off this season because he had the Sir Wiener's thing. He had the Joe Bradley drama in terms of the not being friends anymore. Him being involved in the Will and Emmy thing, I just didn't really think about it too much. I didn't like if I think about who was involved in that, I don't really think of him. So I think he has quite a bit in the show without it. Bradley doesn't, to the point where at the beginning of the season or prior to the season, I was contacting some of the cast to see if they wanted to do my podcast. And when I thought of him, I thought, what is he even doing? And the drama that he created last year with Trevor and Sammy and all of that, which again, didn't we know this, guys? Can somebody contact me at the Bravo Investigator on Instagram and tell me if we did not already know about that rumor? about Sammy and Trevor not being true. Anyways, I already thought Bradley created that rumor. Anyways, yeah, Bradley doesn't really have a storyline, so I could see that being true. I could see it being true that they were working so hard to create this lie to be true that they were willing to do anything to get it. I mean, I don't know. And an interesting point that Emmy makes is like we've known these people for years and years and years, well before the show, well before all of this. So we know, I guess what she's sort of saying is we know what they're capable of. Um, what else? I think sometimes the criticism about the things about Emmy's behind Emmy's back. So Will said, so this part I don't agree with Will on. The part about him talking behind her back apparently happened not just one weekend, it happened 2 weekends in a row. So he's saying he's frustrated about his relationship. His explanation is he doesn't really have friends at law school that he can talk to about it. So he kind of is like bottling it up. And then he comes home, gets drunk in Charleston, and vents about it. And he makes a point to say it wasn't like all around town to random people, which I never thought. Like when we heard it was like to the public or around town, I know that Charleston is a small enough town that that's what they mean. It means other people. So he clarified that some of the people were like Naomi Olindo, who was previously on Southern Charm, who was his pen pal, whatever the hell that means. Um, so okay. But the weird part is that was 2 weekends in a row. Like it's one thing to just get frustrated and vent one night to your friends about your relationship, and it is fine to vent about your relationship to your friends. But remember, he did it in front of Michaels, who he had never met before, and then he did it a second weekend in a row. So I'm just having a hard time with that one. At the end of the day, if she forgave him, she forgave him. And they were saying that the things that were said were not as extreme. Like, I don't think he used the word anorexic, for example. Um, and then, what was the other part? So he'd come into Charleston and he'd do that when he wasn't at law school. He said it was more like venting. Um, Emmy was talking about being 17 months sober right now. Um, and, she just wanted to get to a place where she was more healthy. Um, Will was expressing concern because he was up at law school and he wasn't sure that she was doing it in the healthiest way, which is interesting. Um, what else do we have here? Oh, it was interesting when Natalie and Nick brought up Michael's bringing the rumor, or sorry, not the rumor, the whole Will talking behind her back thing to her because they're like, well, Michael's brought it to you, but you're so concerned about TJ and Bradley bringing it to you. And they're like, she's like, well, Michael's like, he's just a baby. He was like 21 at the time. He at first wasn't like, oh yeah, sorry guys, again, brain fart. One of the main things that Emmy is upset about is the fact that this information was brought to her in a public way, like at Lake's birthday party in front of 12 people, as opposed to, privately. And that's when Nick and Natalie were like, "Yeah, but Michael's did. He brought it to you privately, um, and if you're more so concerned about it being brought on camera, and they were like, no, it had already been on camera at that point, so it was fine when Michaels did it. Plus, he was only like a baby; he was like 21 or 22 years old. And another one of her main points is just that how long ago it was allegedly after the fact. So she says that Will running into town talking shit about her was end of March, and this wasn't brought to her till end of June. Um, but again, like Natalie pointed out that Michael still waited just as long. Now, again, we have to take this with a grain of salt because it's TJ and he's kind of a liar, but he had posted this way back when, like when this was on camera, he had said this was the timeline. April 12th, Will's Lamar's night out talking shit about Emmy to mutual friend of Brad and mine. April 28th, Will's Republic night out talking shit to Maddie, Michaels, and Chiffon. May, Will's in London for law school all month. June 4th, filming starts. June 17th, Brad and I have a sit down dinner with Will to tell him about the one night we've heard about. June 24th, at the lake house, Brad and myself find out there's a second night of drunk shit talking at Republic that we were both unaware of, and this explains why there's so many different stories slash things being said. So that is contradictory, but TT's also kind of a liar. So I guess we can't really know on that one. Um, it is it is messy when these people are your friends in real life and something is said, something that normally your friends would have talked to you about, but it's been months now. It does seem suspect that they are only bringing it up to bring it up on camera. And then you question, it does make sense then to question whether these people are your true friends, because if you were this concerned about it, you would have told me months ago. Because whether whoever's timeline is right, it's still a couple of months. And TJ's excuse is that Emmy should have wanted Emmy should have told him about it in the first place if it was something big in her life, but like Emmy's allowed to deal with her relationship in her own way. And I can see that TJ and Brad, if you really look at this, really went out of their way to gather more and more information about this rumor to try and make it true. And to go into the effort that they did at prom to make it true and to really gather everyone around, and to even at the end of it when Will was like, yeah, I had a girl staying in my apartment, Emmy was aware of it, and Emmy's like, yeah, I was aware of it. TJ didn't even know what to do with himself, so he's just like, well, I believe that rumor last year was true, and Emmy, he will cheat on you, and I'll be there for you. Like, he didn't even know what to do. And again, I'm not defending Will and Emmy fully here, because I feel like they are right in some regards, and in some regards I still kind of feel like I disagree. Um, they talk about Brad being able to get away with all of this because he's such a good manipulator. I don't know. I feel like it's more so just because we don't really like think about him or forget about him. Will said that TJ really was focused on, again, this whole storyline thing. Oh, this is for last year. He was really focused on that last year. So he either needed to out the Joe and Luann rumor, he needed to out the Trevor and Sammy rumor, or a cheating rumor that he had heard about Mia and her boyfriend. And he decided to go with the Joe and Luann thing because that was involving another Bravo show and it would get more steam. I think this TJ guy is like a really bad friend. Um, I think it's pretty wild. Um, and what else is in this episode? Oh, see, this I don't really agree with Emmy and Will. So they believe that the cheating rumor, and they said this on the reunion, they believe that the cheating rumor stems in the fact that in January and February of last year is when season 2 was airing, and that's when there was a cheating rumor about Will kissing someone in a bathroom. And he thinks that because the show was airing then, that's why the new cheating rumor, which is the same, started then. Again, I don't think it is the same cheating rumor. No one said bathroom twice, did they? I don't think so. This is involving a girl in law school that you allegedly took to law prom. Oh, this I do believe of Will and Emmy saying, because you can so easily prove this. Will says that he didn't even go to the law prom because, or barrister's ball, which is the law prom, because Emmy booked a ski trip with her family, had forgotten about it, and so he was at home sad. That is so easily verifiable. And even Emmy says there would be pictures, there would be this and that. So for Bradley to bring it up as this rumor, where's the evidence? He didn't even try to bring anything forward. But we are stupid enough as an audience to just have thought, like, oh my god, he brought another girl to law prom, another girl was staying in his home. That does seem insane considering he's on a show and all of these things would be so easily verifiable. And then they did also say that Austin got direction from, he implied production to exaggerate the cheating rumor. I don't know about that. Austin is a curious character in that we don't really know him. And I've said this in previous episodes, we don't really know him. He sort of at the beginning gave me this nomadic vibe, but then it sort of seems that maybe he has had roots in Charleston because I believe he used to hang out with TJ years back. There's something extremely shady going on with him in his relationship with Allie to the point where her family will not allow her to date him and she's like a fully grown adult. So I don't really know if that's true, but Will also and Emmy made the point of saying that they did speak with Allie, I believe, and she just said that the rumors were, or what did she say? That the rumors are not true. She said that that Allie and Austin have like a really weird history, but then yeah, I think that they did talk to Allie and that Allie said that the rumors aren't true. Um, we don't have either of those people to talk about it anyways. But oh, and then Emmy sort of gives this whole explanation about the dresses, and apparently she had shown Chiffon on camera her affiliates link and all of the whatever to show that she paid for the dresses and didn't use any of her discount codes. But that was cut, thank God, because like who cares about that? So in some regards, I agree with them and believe them. In some, I don't. Something interesting I found about their relationship, and I wonder if anyone else noticed this, was the way that Emmy talks about them like they are one, almost like a conjoined twin. She's like, it's our birthday this week. And they have the same birthday, fair enough. But then she also said, we're both, or no, she says, we are neurodivergent. So with the way she doesn't say we both. I think if she would say we both, it would define her relationship as sort of like a separate entity when she's talking about both things. But when she just says we instead of we both, it sounds more like their brother and sister. I can't even explain it. Or like a conjoined twin. So it's our birthday. It's our fucking birthday. And we're neurodivergent. And then just the way she's always talked about him all season to the point where Leva even said in the reunion, you speak about him when you're talking about yourself. And she's like, yes, but he's part of my life. So when in my storytelling about myself, he's part of my narrative, which makes sense. But to the point you're saying we this and we that, it's like you were one entity, which is a bit weird. Um, and the other thing Will said was that he does not see himself as a reality TV character. It was not something he had hoped for himself, and he hopes he still has a law career after all this, but he thinks that Emmy's a star. So I guess we'll have to see. He hasn't decided if he wants to go back to the show. It's implied that she does want to do this, and she talked to Nick and Natalie about that difficult concept of you do the show and you have the stress of that, and then you film the confessionals, and then you live it out again when it airs, and it goes over and over again. But, it's not so much that she doesn't want to continue doing that. It's just what she wants the public to be aware of that. And it's like, we know, Emmy. But I guess, I don't know. I guess, are we getting mad at her and her relationship about things that have happened a year ago? Maybe we are. But I think she needs to do a little bit better of a job of staying out of the comments and staying out of it, because part of the fun for us is to take it seriously and to invest in it. And if we don't invest in it, and if we don't believe that it's happening now, we just don't enjoy it as much. So I think maybe she needs to do a little bit of a different dance with her relationship with social media. Maybe she needs to work on that in some sort of way, maybe in therapy. Again, not in a bad way. Like reality TV isn't for everybody. So fair enough if this doesn't end up being the path for her. It would suck because I think she is such an interesting reality TV character. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention that she mentioned is, I think it was the moment at Lake's Lake House when the whole cast was coming at her about the rumor, sorry, not the rumor, about Will talking shit about her all around town. And she had one of those, freak out moments. And she explained one of those moments, and I believe her about this one. It was that moment. And she realized in that moment, this is the storyline, this is the season, this is what this is about. And that kind of makes sense. If you suddenly have this moment where your boyfriend isn't there, all your friends are around you, or your so called friends, they're all confronting you about something. You don't know why they're doing that. You feel like they're coming at you. And then you realize that the whole show is going to be about this. Yeah, you might kind of lose your mind. So that part I kind of feel for her on. But yeah, I it didn't sound like she was going to quit the show. It sounds like she wants to continue doing the show. Will is unsure, and he says he may have ruffled some feathers or burned some bridges with Bravo production by not showing up to the reunion. Who knows? I mean, we've seen some people not come back from that. We've seen some people come back from that. Mary Cosby, Lisa Vanderpump. But in terms of Emmy, I mean, I don't know why she just thinks that us understanding it would be enough for her to continue to go through it. I understand why it would be difficult to keep reliving and reliving and reliving. We do know that as a fandom, we do know that as podcasters and content creators. I think maybe the best thing for her is to learn to change her relationship with social media in some sort of way. Who knows? Okay, let's move on to Teen Mom. Amber Portwood, one of our OG Teen Moms, has quit Teen Mom. First, we heard that she was fired from Teen Mom, but then she has clarified a few days ago that she actually quit. And I'm not really surprised. I mean, at this point, she's only been in like 5 seconds of an episode. If you guys aren't aware, the show is still on. It's Teen Mom, the next chapter. The kids are like 16 now. It's crazy. I talk about it here and there. Um, we've been seeing her wean in and out of the show or wean out of the show for a few years now. What I've sort of hated about her storyline up until the last few years, or sorry, the last few years, is how she doesn't really have relationships in her family that are filmed because she doesn't really have a relationship with Leah. She doesn't have a relationship with Gary and Christina. We used to see her relationship with her brother and her mom years ago. We haven't seen that in years. So for the past few years, it's mostly just been like her and her therapist, her and a producer. And it feels just more of an interview style, while with the other girls we're seeing them with their families and we're seeing the drama that is going on, or we're even seeing them in phone calls with each other, which is that vibe of where they can still kind of connect to the other women and get advice. But this season has felt that final sort of cutoff from Amber. Amber has always had her ups and downs with the show, on and off, because of her mental health and stuff, but this season has seen a definite like turn. Because again, this may have been a fever dream. Somebody tell me if it was, but I believe in the first episode of this season, she fakes being pregnant to get out of filming and then doesn't film again. Um, then after that, we have, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, an episode where Gary and Christina are invited over to one of the other mom's kids' birthday parties, Jade's kid's birthday party. And Leah's talking to some of the other moms about wanting to be adopted by Christina. And even the other moms are sort of just like, you know, I'm sort of at that point where I can no longer defend Amber. And I talked at length last week about my, or was it last week? I think it was last week or the week prior, about my thoughts on Amber Portwood and her parenting of Leah. So you can go back and listen. Um, this is a different thing. This is your job. And I guess I can't expect her to be doing that very well either if she can't even so much as show up to attend her own children's like birthday parties and events and things like that. I guess I can't really expect her to show up to film. That's, so I'm not really surprised that she has quit, or I wouldn't be surprised if she was fired either. That being said, an article came out the other day that she has apparently flipped off her longtime Teen Mom co-stars Macy Bookout and Kaylin Lowell, implies they are no longer friends. So this is from the Ashley, or this is, sorry, Teen Mom Shade Room. It says, as the Ashley previously reported, Amber took swings at MTV, Gary Shirley, and the show's producers during her internet tirade, and even her longtime friends Macy and Kate weren't safe from Amber's anger. After Amber brought up how upset she got when some of her co-stars, particularly Cheyenne Floyd and Jade Klein, criticized her treatment of her daughter Leah during a recent episode, which is the one I just mentioned, a fan in the live chat pointed out that Macy and Caitlin have always stuck by Amber, a statement that Amber seemed to disagree with. Macy and Kate have been good to me. Hold up real quick, Amber said before flipping off the camera. Amber did not elaborate on her reasoning for telling her former BFFs to essentially F off. To the Ashley's knowledge, Macy and Caitlin have not publicly spoken negatively about Amber or her parenting. It appears, though, that Amber may be upset that Macy and Kate didn't stick up for her after the other girls slammed her. I don't want to hear from anybody because my mouth will go wah, Amber said. Amber claimed that she does not watch next chapter and only knows what's discussed on the episodes because her mother tells her. So Sheena. She did, however, slam MTV for not getting the other girls on the cast to talk about her on camera. What? I feel bad for my daughter and why she thinks the way she thinks of me, and I feel bad for everyone else getting involved. I don't think it's right for MTV to push it on Cheyenne about them, to be sitting there talking about me. And then Caitlyn seemingly responded to that with, whoa, lol. Well, I guess she's going to be big mad when she sees what me and Macy said to Leah later this season. Truth will always be, or sorry, truth will always be truth, and facts are facts. And then Amber responded to that in a video, which I'm going to play you guys.
They're pretty angry with me right now. And I got a text last night. I talked to Caitlin, and Macy and Kate, to me, guys, are they are women that I absolutely adore. Okay? So I'll tell you the truth here. Macy and Kate had came into town to see me. A certain person had lied to them about what I knew, which was a really horrific situation. And somebody told them that I knew about this horrific situation. And so they thought to not bring it up to me because they thought it was going to hurt me, things like that. You know, they just wanted to see their friend. And that's what Caitlin said last night. Now, I thought they were keeping a secret from me, a horrible, because I thought, you guys are my girls, you know, we've been doing this for so many years that, if anybody, I think you guys, if anybody says something, you know, tell. I would say, Macy, Kate, this is what's going on, babes. Like, da 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 da. Well, they weren't able to do that because a person lied to them and told them I knew. And that made this huge like scenario. It's like in my head, like literally I was like, oh my God, like really? Like after all these years, you guys are keeping something so, thank you, darlings, so like um just hurtful and from me, and they weren't. They were lied to. And I never knew that. I just found that out last night by Kate. So now I feel horrible because, of course, same person has to be in this dynamic to start this drama. And so I'm going to say right now, Kate and Macy, I am so sorry, darlings.
Okay, so that's basically it. And um, what she's talking about there is Gary. She's saying that Gary lied to Caitlin and Macy, saying that I guess Amber already knew that Leah wanted to be adopted. And well, if you remember last season, I guess is what she's talking about more so, where Caitlin and Macy come down to check on Amber after her weird breakup with Gary 2.0, who like ran away on her and she thought that he had been kidnapped and people thought that she had murdered him. Remember that whole thing? So they came down to check on her, and they knew that Leah wanted to be adopted by Christina, and they felt that it should be Gary and Leah who tell her about it. So I guess she's saying now, oh, Caitlin and Macy should have told me, so they're done with me. But then last night I found out that that's not true, that Gary actually lied to them and said that I knew. I mean, I don't know. The way she always plays Gary and Christina really pisses me off. You have to remember, Gary was also 16 years old, albeit he did not have mental health issues and he did not go to jail, but he stepped up. He became Leah's full time parent automatically because whenever Amber went to jail, and then from then, that period forward to now, he has been her full time parent. And then Christina came in with her own child. I actually think you guys don't know this, her child Emily, who is on the show, is not her only child. She has another child with somebody else who um is it just can't be on camera. So she has her own situation as well. She has really been there for Leah. If you watch as the season goes by, or as the seasons go on, Leah's period, Leah's mental health, everything that Leah has been through, Christina has been there every step of the way. There have been so many beautiful moments. I remember when Gary and Christina get remarried, and what's her name? And Leah, I think, walks Christina down the beach, which is how they do it. And she goes, "You're everything to me." And I remember that moment because that's so beautiful. You're everything to me. Isn't that? And how could someone not want to be that kid's mother? In this past week's episode, we see Gary and Christina and Leah going to get more information about this adoption, and the lawyer's like, "Do you think Amber would contest it?" They're like, "Yeah, of course she will." And so they were debating of whether it's even worth it with Leah being 16 and being so close to legal age. And I was wondering why Leah wanted to do it so badly, and I wondered if there was a part of her, and I know this is a really weird thing to say about a child, but I wonder if there was a piece of her that wanted to do it just to really kind of get back at Amber. But she actually says in this episode
It's not about that. She doesn't want to hurt Amber. She really, really, really doesn't. And I could see there just being such a peace in being officially part of that family and maybe just not having something to hang over you. I mean, Gary has said if something were to happen to him, he does not trust that Leah would be safe in Amber's care. And as sad as it is to say, and Amber just doesn't like to take accountability, which is such a narcissist thing. And I don't know if she's a narcissist. She has so many other issues and mental health issues that I don't really know what it is about her, but her inability to take any sort of accountability for her parenting to Leah, to the point where she is currently present day saying that any mental health therapy or anything that Leah is going through is not her fault. She's like, she doesn't need help because of me. I didn't give her a bad life. It's not because of me. And will continue to berate Gary and Christina. She doesn't even have specifics. She'll just kind of be like, well, I was there till this point, or Christina wasn't a good mom, or Gary's not all that, or Gary just cares about this. At this point, like, she is so happy in that home. I don't know why Amber is refusing to see it. It wouldn't have, and it's not even like Gary and Christina have presented Amber with so many opportunities to be in Leah's life up to the point where Leah would have accepted it. At this point now, it's really hard to get Leah to accept it, being 16 years old and being just so aware of everything that's going on. I think they've done a beautiful job of trying to continue to incorporate Amber into her life. But at this point, Amber has no place on Teen Mom anymore. If her child, it would suck to no longer see Gary and Christina and Leah, because that's basically all we're watching on Teen Mom now. But I would love to see them continue on. But yeah, it sort of doesn't make any sense because the mother isn't really in her life. I do hope that one day that Amber can take some sort of accountability and just show her daughter that she just cares, because I think you'll see it with other teen moms or other people in general, where if you look at someone like Leah Messer, for example, from Teen Mom 2, she had a stepfather in her life from the point that she was 2 years old, but she considers it like a major hole in her life not to have had like a biological father. And I always wondered why, because like she had this amazing male figure in her life from such a from the time she could remember. But for some reason there's still that hole. And so because of that, even though Leah is so fulfilled in terms of her family and all other ways, she's still always going to have that hole and that gap because of Amber. And I think if Amber could just take a little bit of ownership for that, even if it's just to say, I wish my mental health hadn't prevented me from being the mother that you always deserved and needed, I think if she can just even get to that point somewhere along the way with Leah, maybe they can make some stride. It would just suck for Leah to have to go through her whole life without ever, ever, ever having an apology from her mother. Just another little bit of Teen Mom news, and then we can go. Farrah Abraham had her first comedy show the other day, and yeah, you heard that right. That girl does everything, and I don't mean that in a good way. She's a businesswoman, she's a porn star, she's a comedy star. The only thing I want to say about this is 2.0 is there. Vinny 2.0, this is different than Gary 2.0. This is Vinny 2.0 from Angelina and Vinny from Angelina from Jersey Shore. So if you're a watcher of Jersey Shore Family Vacation, the guy that Angelina is like on and off with, I don't even know if they're currently together. He was there for some reason. Um, it seemed like a lot of Teen Mom people were there. Good for her. Apparently it was a really interesting show. I could not see myself paying for comedy by Farrah Abraham, nor could I see myself paying for comedy by Joe Gorga, who is coming to Toronto, by the way, on April 12th. I can't pay for comedy by a man who is just not a comedian. That's crazy. So that's another one that's coming. But yeah, Farrah Abraham, just the girl who does it all. Um, all the power to her. I mean, hey, listen, I did stand up and I sucked at it too. And I think it's sort of like podcasting where everyone should try their hand at it, and some have a knack for it, some don't. I would say that one of the hardest parts of stand up, obviously, is the deafening silence when you say something that people don't think is funny. I hope she never has to endure that because it is pretty awful and probably one of the reasons I stopped doing comedy. And you know, I'll say something that everyone used to say to me when they thought I did a bad job, I didn't want to hurt my feelings. They said, "We're really impressed that you went ahead and you went out there and you did it. You did the thing. You did it. You went out there. And you performed. You did that. Look at you. Look at you. All right, guys. Well, I love you, BBs, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.